Nintendo, the super powerhouse of the gaming industry. What is there to say that hasn't already been said? The cultural significance, the dominance of power, the relentless and continuous stream of creativity are all a part of this brand. Boom! Boom, boom, boom. Core memory here. Boom! New amazing idea there. Boom! New fucking pink bubblegum guy. Boom! A monkey that wears a tie named Donkey. Boom! This company has impacted our culture in a way that has been observed by me my whole life. There's been countless videos that's been made about Nintendo. There's no way that I could ever sum up the impact that this company has. It especially doesn't need some dumb baby monkey talking about it. But what I am gonna do is do a brief history and then talk about my personal nostalgia with it, just because I love that shit. So let's get into it. So, for preface, Nintendo started out as a playing card company. They stayed a playing card company until around like 1963, and where they officially changed their name to Nintendo. Their business model was great with the playing cards, but it really didn't take off until the 1980s. But right before then, in the 1970s, they focused on electronic toys and games. They produced this weird color TV game series that was released as a home console, and it was the first of its kind for Nintendo. They sold it out of Japan only. It was from 1977 to 1983, and it sold over 1 million units. People were blown away by this. It kind of looks like a orange popsicle, like a dreamsicle. That's the first thought that I had in my head when I saw it for the first time. The family could get together and play with these two controllers that only had knobs, and then you could play Pong, and that's it, at your house. After this, Nintendo was like, whoa, this is what we gotta be doing. So after this orange box, they created the Game & Watch series. Boom! You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. But in case you don't, the Game & Watch series is a line of handheld electronic games produced by Nintendo from 1980 to 1991. These devices were the precursor to modern handheld gaming consoles and produced bangers like Ball and Flagman. Yep. They sold 43 million units. And after Nintendo saw this, they knew they had their cash cow in virtual gaming, video games. They probably thought like, holy shit, like what the freak? They probably thought like, whoa, there's a lot of money. They probably thought this. After this, Nintendo took that steam and put their efforts into a brand new product. This product, some might say, is responsible for the video game industry's relevance and rise to power. In 1981, Nintendo released the arcade game Donkey Kong. Boom, you got your jump, man. Boom, you got your Donkey Kong. Boom, you got your barrels. Boom, you got your ballina. Donkey Kong is what set the standards for what should be a video game. Video games tried to copy this game, Donkey Kong. You know why? Because it's a monkey throwing barrels at your face! Just 2 years after the blowout success that was Donkey Kong, in 1983, Nintendo had its next best thing. Nintendo released in Japan the Famicom. And then 2 years later in North America, we all know it as the NES. The Nintendo Entertainment System was released to the public. From here, it was no question who was the powerhouse in the gaming industry. The only companies that came even close to Nintendo's success still didn't have the creative and innovative ability to continuously shape the way we play and think about video games. The NES, SNES, Game Boy, N64, Game Boy Color, GameCube, Nintendo DS, the Wii U, that was kind of poo-poo, and the Switch. All consoles that fucking revolutionized what was possible. Nintendo today is doing great things, obviously, but Nintendo then, back in the day, dude, Come on, man. Dude! Nintendo then? Let's break it down. My most favorite console, the god of all consoles in my mind, is the Nintendo 64. It was the first console to truly implement 3D platforming on a whole new level. It implemented a whole new controller. It had an analog stick on the front and it had the button on the back, and you didn't know whether you were supposed to grab it on the sides or grab it in the middle. It was like trying to control a spaceship. When I was a child, this was just like meth. It was meth for my brain. The N64 also had 4 controller ports, which allowed for 4 people to play a game at the same time. But I'm telling you, and I'm telling you right fucking now, the N64 came out with the best video games to ever grace me. I can't even get into the magic that they made on this game. And I'll probably leave that for a different video. But for just to name a few, obviously it's Mario 64, it's Zelda Ocarina of Time, it's Banjo-Kazooie. I mean, classic banger after banger. They came out with Smash Bros. They came out with Smash Bros on this one. Also Donkey Kong 64, which I really enjoyed. But a lot of people didn't. The Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Advance. They came with this whole new system with the Game Boy. Handheld to the extreme. These little tiny ports. You had classic games like Mario Bros. 3 and New Super Mario Bros. 2 with the weird Wario and the fucking little lizard guy. It had backwards compatibility both for the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Advance. The GameCube. Fuck. Shit. To rock. The GameCube was just like the GameCube. How fucked. This was obviously the time where Nintendo was on the top of its game. Like Super Smash Bros. Melee, Mario Sunshine, Zelda Wind Waker. It is not news that this company is banking in original ideas, culturally impactful games, and masterful creators. But I don't particularly love Nintendo nowadays. You need to leave. All right. I don't really play video games now, and it's because, I'm a working adult, and honestly, I'm just not that invested in playing video games all the time. My love for Nintendo began to dwindle naturally, right? Like, not for really any observable problems. I just got old. I still play some games. I'm just fucking old. But seriously, here's the weird thing. I will periodically throughout the year go out of my way to not play new Nintendo games, but to play the old Nintendo games. There's this weird draw that I feel with these old games that are just busted as hell, but I don't know, it's just so fun to play to me. I don't know why. I think about this and I'm like, what the fuck? Why don't I feel this for these new games? What I think is missing is one word, and that word is nostalgia. Nostalgia is something that I'm pretty sure our generation is aware of at this point, right? It's that feeling down in your fucking gut about that one Binky toy you used to shove up your nose. It's that smell of the basement you used to go down in at your grandparents' house. It's the feeling of that damn-ass styrofoam lunch trays that I'd be chewing on in the first grade. It's that nervous feeling of staying up past your bedtime watching TV with your parents, and you're just praying the whole time they don't notice until Patrick eats that roasted stick in that one caveman episode of SpongeBob. Nostalgia is the feeling you get when reminiscing on past experiences that resembled a happier time. A time in where one didn't have to worry about bills or fucking sugar ants getting into your food pantry or your stupid-ass landlord not giving you a working washing machine! Nostalgia represents freedom of responsibility and creativity. It is the safest space in our minds to enjoy and relive good moments in peace. Nostalgia is usually used in the context of childhood, but it can be applied to any past time in life in which there were fond memories. The most powerful kind of nostalgia, in my opinion, though, are the memories that have been cooking the longest in it. Our earliest and first encounters with these things we love most happened during our childhood. Nostalgia isn't just confined to actions or objects either. You probably have heard the term liminal spaces. Some of these spaces include little slides in the water park and a hallway that you just swear you've seen. Recently, the internet has gone wild with the liminal spaces idea. These spaces are places that we could swear we've either been to or seen before in our lives. The funny part is, these liminal spaces are so easily identifiable because of the popularity of which they are used. The word liminal comes from the Latin word limen, which means threshold. These are transitional spaces that are commonly used in everyday life, structures, malls, whatever. The point is, these liminal spaces have been specifically attached to our childhood memories. This is why everybody's freaking out about it. It's because they've been cooking in that nostalgia. That is where the power comes from in these images and memories. And for me, Nintendo is the most nostalgic it gets. One of the first memories, the very beginning, that comes to my mind is my older cousin playing Mario 64. I walked into his room and saw he was playing an old AV TV, and he was running around as this little guy in this video game. I sat down next to him and watched. Completely out of it, I had no idea what was even going on. The colors and everything was just fucking happening on the screen. It was blowing my mind. It was like this little dude jumping around, doing backflips, stomping on little brown things. It was nuts. After a little while, he got hungry and got up to go get some food. He turned to me and he said, "You want to try?" At the time, my older cousin was completely unaware that he had just changed my life. He handed me the N64 controller, and I sat there running into a wall for about 15 minutes until he came back. I was so fucking pissed off. I didn't understand how to jump to get over this little ledge. I was running back and forth, barely understanding how to work the controller. And finally, he came back, did a backflip over the wall, and kept playing. I was pissed, and I was hooked. From then on, I saved up my money, got new games, kept playing, and got really into my first system, the GameCube. The GameCube, in my mind, was this fucking crazy, amazing thing that was so hard to master. When I was like 8 years old, I was playing this thing, and it meant so much to me, and I wanted to be so good. But I wasn't, because I was 8, and I was a fucking dumb kid. One time, I was playing Mario Kart on my original GameCube, and Princess Peach beat me in a final race, and I got so mad, I took the disc out, and I snapped it in half. That's a true story, and I threw it in my bathroom, and I'm really sad about that, because I wish I had that game now. But there is one game that I did not give up on, and that's Luigi's Mansion. I couldn't put it down. The mechanics, the music, the animation, the spooky, weird vibe of it all was just perfect for my little kid brain. I was invested. I was all in. I was risking hanging out with friends on weekends because I would secretly play at night, staying up to figure out the next key or what boss I had to find next. I was enveloped in that world, and eventually it was time to fight King Boo. I stayed home from school that day. I faked being sick for this very purpose. I was sweating. I was going crazy. I was screaming. I was struggling, and I died probably 50 times. At one point, my mom heard me yapping and was wondering what was going on, so she came into my room and saw me playing. You know, looking back, I bet you she definitely knew I wasn't sick because I was twisting around. I was like fucking freaking out. But there was something about that moment, and she realized something special was happening for me. She didn't say a word and just sat on the bed next to me and watched me struggle for another hour. Finally, though, failure after failure, I beat the game. My mom cheered me on, and I completed my first video game ever. This is the peak of my nostalgia for Nintendo. After this moment, there was nothing as spectacular or as special as this. I still obviously enjoyed the games that Nintendo produced. There are many other stories of me playing Nintendo games that produce a nostalgia feeling, close to the one that I just described, but just not quite as powerful. There was a continuous drop-off after this in my mind. Again, not by much, but I grew up and realized the moments and how special they were in terms of nostalgia. No Nintendo games do not have the same nostalgia present, in my opinion. You want to know why? Because I'm not a dumb kid anymore. The nostalgia is linked to my childhood, and the games that the kids are playing today will be linked to their childhood. This is not rocket science. I've learned that this is just the way of the world. It is natural for the cycle to continue for new generations. My nostalgia not only comes from a deserving place for Nintendo, but from a personal love of games and a desire to return to simpler times. The best part of these memories is that for a moment, when thinking back, I get to be in these simpler times. I get to remember what it was to feel wonder and awe through these games. And for that reason, I am grateful for Nintendo. This was Nintendo, and my nostalgia that comes with it. Thanks for watching, fucking monkey men.